Hey everyone, how's it going? It was really awesome to come off away from an amazing conversation like that. I love when we talk more about mental health and awareness in both in the tech industry as well as like now in the NFT area. And I'll be talking a little bit about that today in my own talk as well. It's called Building More Inclusive NFT Collections. So before we go into that, next slide. Next slide, please. Cool. So who am I? I'm a developer advocate over at Polygon. Previously been a front-end engineer and a freelance Solidity engineer. I'm also a mental health advocate and a rapper. So I like to come to these events. Usually I talk to developers, talking to them about like how to build NFT collections, build smart contracts, just build in the Web3 space in general. And today with this talk, there's a couple things that I wanted to cover. This is sort of not a technical talk. It originally was a little bit more technical, but I cut down on some of it because I feel like even for developers, it's important to understand what we're building just outside of code and outside of just like, the technical side of things and look at like the different parts of the community that we're actually affecting. So I wanted to go over like a couple things, like what does an NFT unlock? First thing might be community access, right? You get an NFT, you mint it maybe through an initial drop, or maybe you buy it secondhand off of like OpenSea or something. Now you suddenly have access to this Discord. Could be hundreds, thousands of people in there, and there's just this community of people that you can talk to, right? And a little bit of what was mentioned in the last talk that I loved is like you get access to people who may be in like the same sort of going through some of the same things as you, going through some of the same experiences that you are, which is awesome. There's a lot of networking opportunities and job opportunities also that can be unlocked here. The only reason that I have my job today is because I minted an NFT. It was a free NFT. It was called Devs for Revolution. It was to have me get access to this DAO called Developer DAO, which, as the name suggests, is full of a bunch of other developers, engineers who are building in this space. And I got involved there. I just started talking to people, building in this space. All of a sudden, I was organizing events for engineers and developers. And then I was talking to Polygon. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm working at Polygon, you know? So that's just like, it's crazy the type of things that you can just like unlock just by participating in these communities and getting access to these communities. So one thing that I wanted to kind of highlight, what are some of the floor prices of different NFT collections right now during a bear market? I think I got these numbers like a week or two ago, so they're not accurate to like today, but these are just like, 76 ETH for base E, Moonbirds is like 16 ETH, Doodles is like 8 ETH. So yes, things are coming down, but thing to remember, bears are still as good as bulls in pricing people out, right? It's very hard for the majority of people to actually get into these communities. Even the Developer DAO NFT that I bought, it was originally free. It goes for like, I think, 0.5 ETH, 0.6 ETH sometimes, and that's still kind of like not accessible to a lot of people. So the question that I kind of ask is, does WAGMI actually apply here? We say this a lot, we shout this a lot, but we do not practice it. And I'd like to look at different ways where we can actually start practicing that a little bit more. So then there's this whole concept of abundance versus scarcity. We look at scarcity as like, oh, we have a 10K collection, we have an 8K collection. We're gonna make a ton of money off of it, right? We're gonna have a community. But your community is limited. Your community cannot grow beyond that 8K, beyond that 10K. So I wanted to look at how we introduce abundance into the NFT world. One method of that is adding abundance through fractionalization. What is fractionalization? One method of fractionalization could be doing something like implementing an ERC20 contract that lives on top of individual NFTs. ERC20 contracts refer to, if you're not too familiar, tokens, something like a Dogecoin or something like that. Those are all ERC20 tokens. What a developer and engineer in these communities could potentially do is take an NFT, lock it inside of a contract. That contract is then used to mint X whatever amount of tokens, and those tokens represent fractional ownership over that NFT. What would that unlock? Let's take a look at that. First thing would be new potential sub-communities or sub-DAOs within that initial DAO. Like imagine if someone took a Bored Ape and decided, I want to include a whole bunch of more people who can have access to this community. Fractionalizing this NFT could be a good way to do that. You suddenly have this one NFT that could be owned by several people based on the number of ERC20 tokens that they decide to buy associated to that single NFT. You get opportunities for more diverse membership. You get opportunities across, new opportunities across communities and DAOs. And the last thing is quicker access to liquidity, right? You don't have to sell your whole NFT to profit off of it. You could sell fractions of it and get access to liquidity that way. So that's sort of adding fractionalization a little bit after the fact, right? After you've already come to the point where these communities are huge, these communities are thriving, but you may not be able to add specific newer people into it because they're priced out. Moving forward, if you're a developer, if you're an engineer, I would highly, highly recommend to consider doing this from the start. The reason I say this, it's not too hard, from an engineering standpoint, to do this because there are, other than an ERC721 token, which is a standard NFT token, there's things like ERC1155s, which make this 10 times easier to do. You can still have all of the benefits of an ERC721 NFT token community with fractionalization baked into your smart contract from the beginning, and just thinking about how you can actually grow your community beyond your initial 10K collection, beyond your initial 8K collection, without having to keep doing more NFT drops, because sometimes that looks a little shaky, right? So these are just a couple things to consider. And the main thing here is just let's just make WAGMI an actual thing, I've been in this sort of NFT community for about 1.5 years now. I loved that single saying from the beginning, and I would really love for folks who are in the tech space, who are working on this, to definitely consider that, especially after hearing that last talk. These communities, these different sort of NFT groups could be made more accessible to a wider variety of people, and that can start with folks like us who are engineers and building for that from the first place. Thank you.